What's up, Workforce? Brian here.
Chris here.
And today we're finally bringing you our thoughts and our impressions of patch 5.4 in this whole hailstorm craziness of the cyberpunk issues. So while today's video, we're not going to be talking about cyberpunk and we're not going to be talking about story of 5.4. So if you're worried about spoilers, this is a non-spoilery discussion. We will save that story talk for like a video maybe tomorrow or the next day. So just kind of keep that in mind. So if you have not caught and finished the story, this is totally fine. We're going to be talking and focusing solely on the gameplay and the content. Chris, you've been doing a lot of streaming. You actually cleared 5.4 light years ahead of me. For some reason,
Like 2 weeks.
For some reason, Cyberpunk and like other things like have come out that have consumed me. And so then it's like I eventually got around to finally like actually finishing the story, finishing the raids, finishing the trials, and more. I'm going to toss it to you. What are your thoughts? What are your impressions about the game, dude?
So congrats to the World First group, TPS. Congrats on World First. It was a lot of fun to watch. They were the one not streaming, so we didn't know where they were at the whole time. We were kind of guessing. It was fun to watch the streaming groups push through. It's fun to go watch the like Frosty. I know was doing some Party Finder stuff last night. Xandri's doing some Party Finder stuff this moment. So it's neat to see people trying to bring the community in. E9S seems to be a wall for Party Finder, but for Statics, E12 seems to be the one that where you really see them. Like I saw Mystech's Guild just slamming into it until they finally got it down just in time for her due date. So
and
congrats. She has a baby.
Yeah, she had a baby. Her baby. Congrats, Mystech. That's fantastic news.
So congrats on that. I've gotten questions about like when Brian and I are going to do Savage and stuff. I've got big leveling things going on, Brian. You got a lot going on. You're like, we'll probably miss this tier altogether.
My baby's coming in could be any day now.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and then at the same time, we don't have like a dedicated group. So if you guys want to figure that out, I need somebody to be the leader of that. Like I just don't have it in me to organize a static raid. I'd be fine to go throw my head against Savage at this point now that I finally got my Ninja controller guide out. Everybody posted over today, Ginger Prime, check it out. Anyway, all right.
So yeah, I think the normal raids were really fun. I really enjoyed them. I enjoyed them again re-clearing today. And so when a re-clear is fun, that's a sign of a good fight. I think the one where you kind of jump platform to platform, that one's the least fun to me because there's like a narrative element, and over time, the narrative element is just like it's like MSQ dungeons or MSQ roulette. Like it's just, I know.
No spoilers. Like from a narrative perspective, that I think has the most significance, and I loved it. From a gameplay, I totally agree. 100 agree. Like it's like, okay, yeah, this is that.
Jump to the platform, kill the thing. Okay, jump to the platform, kill the thing. Okay. I don't find that horribly engaging versus some of the other fights where like there's the one that like picks previous bosses we've seen in the past and like picks
the same one
and then layer like that section of that fight is the most fun gameplay. The platforms ruins it.
Well, it's so cool.
Why can't we just stay there?
It's so cool because it uses the junction system. So it could junction, it could cast, it could like, and so paying attention to what they're doing. Oh, it's so cool. And I was just like, the music, the freaking music is just on point. And so, yeah, like mechanically, I would say like, I thought the raid tier, I don't know, for me, it felt easier, but that's, I mean, in the sense of like what,
normal.
Yeah. I mean, we are on normal, but it's like typically like, I don't know, like I think I struggled more personally on Titan than I've struggled on the final one here, so not naming it just in case anybody hasn't cleared it. So I just felt like I struggled more on
timings aren't as tight. The timings to get out of stuff aren't as tight with the exception of the tiles. On the boss that has the tiles, I don't want to spoil the order for anybody that's kind of pushing through them, but the boss, when you hit the tiles, that's the only area where I see like a lack of coordination can really wreck a normal group.
Gotcha.
Because you can absolutely get somebody else killed who did nothing wrong. Like they bail off a square, you bail off a square, and you both die. It's a lot of fun to watch people do it on Savage though, where two people cannot be on the same tile.
I think if I was going to pick a winner out of all three of the fights, nostalgically, the first one is where my heart it was just like seeing that, and I think mechanically I like the third fight. I think the third fight feels the most significant in terms of the raid series. I felt more connected to that because of how the narration went. Again, no spoilers, but like I really was more invested in that than I was personally in the fourth one and in the second one. I thought the first and the third tiers for me, I just connected with them way more. I thought there was a lot of interesting things going on. The second one with the shadows and stuff like that was interesting. And I do agree with you. Actually, having gone through a couple cycles of the raid series now, its replayability on normal being fun is actually a good sign. I told Julie, I was like, I'm actually in the cycle here where it's like, yeah, like, oh, it's Tuesday. This is awesome. I'm going to get all my raid stuff done. Because the other side of it is you just kind of queue for all four and you just work your way down the list. I'm having trouble
remembering the order because I get them in like today I played like 3, 4, 1, 2, I think is the order I played them in.
Yeah.
So they're a little all over the place. So 11, 12, 9, 10.
I've also done the dungeon, like kind of shifting it from a gameplay perspective. I've done the dungeon a couple times. I'm still liking it. I still enjoy that dungeon.
I didn't find it challenging.
I think when it gets to that third section with all the colors and the lava and how just beautiful that is, like my heart just explodes. It's the same thing with the Eden, like when you finish it off and it shows like the completed, like, you know, the empty is no more or whatever, you know, it's like, oh man, it's just gorgeous. And then that third section of that dungeon, the palette there and just how the rainbow lava or whatever, like it's just mind-blowingly beautiful.
Nuts.
It is.
Cosmetically, I think it's probably the most impressive cosmetic, the most fun to be in, the most immersive that we've gotten this expansion.
Yeah.
Gameplay wise, it's really flat as a tank.
But you get knocked up and you got to see the pig and then you see where the pig's going to blow. And
but I see a pig all day.
You are in a pig suit. We need to create a like a reward that people can make you glamour certain things, because I know your heart's set on that, but we need to.
Well, Tank's pig. As I move into other jobs, only tanks are pigs.
Yeah.
You guys just always see me tank.
So yeah. Anyway. So okay. That's it. Was there anything more you like? Anything more you want to talk about on the dungeon itself? Because the dungeon's the dungeon.
It was just a dungeon.
Yeah.
The dungeons this expansion have just been dungeons. When they get tossed into the leveling roulette and we see them once a year, they'll be fine because they're new, but they won't be something you're like, I'm gonna go queue and run that over and over and over and over. They're not something that.
And that's where we're gonna get into it. So I'm only 52 like in WoW, and so they just updated the consoles port thing. So I'm gonna be diving back into WoW to get Shadowbringers finished, Shadowlands, Shadow whatevers finished off and start working on controller guides for the WoW classes. But like being said that, like I really want to dive into M Plus and then kind of that concept of a system, because no matter what, my heart always goes into, I wish there was something more with the dungeons. Like I wish there was something more with the dungeons that has to be a dynamic scaling system. And anyway, I know that's something that we've been kind of tabling. People have asked for.
Even if we could just get Unreals of them, so there was more in the roulette.
Yeah, oh man, imagine,
an Unreal. And instead of 50, 60, 70, you'd have the Unreal roulette, and it'd just be everything is at cap.
Oh man, imagine, and then you're just excited to see what you get. Oh
yeah,
hell
so
yeah,
your expert roulette just becomes your Unreal roulette, and you just have so many dungeons in it. That would. So the other way to come at it is to say you either have to make each dungeon more engaging the more times you run it. Or you have to just make there be so many dungeons that you run 12 roulettes and you never see the same thing twice.
Yeah.
Which is that is possible. We have that kind of system where you could even keep track of people's previous 1 or 2 dungeons. There's only 4 people in a party. You could just remove those 8 from the possible. So it guarantees that you never get the same dungeon twice in a row. We have so many dungeons in game. From there, I would say the trial fight was awesome. I have loved that entire series. The trial fights have been fantastic.
I was really impressed by its transition. I was really impressed by the story, and I know we'll talk about that tomorrow. But essentially, like the trial fight, the problem that I run into with the trial fight, as opposed to Eden, is that the normal version of the trial fight is like a story beat, and then you go into the extreme. And so there's no real motivator. Like I don't know unless I decide to go and try and actually get 7 other people who want to go and actually say, this is the time or the days that we're working on this content, and this is when we're showing up. Unless we can get that set up, I don't see myself doing extreme unless I get invited into a clear party. And so then I don't know when I'm going to see that trial fight again over that other raid. And that's just the nature of having lots of kids and being busy with work. Like, that's nothing against the game not being inviting. It's just, that's a Brian problem right now.
Yeah, I queued for it manually the second week
Mm-hmm.
just to run it again. And then I just ran it the twice. It's a really fun fight. So like I'm looking forward to it being in my trial roulette.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that it's going to be tied to being level 80. So you're never going to get it in trial roulette until level 80 includes people that are leveling.
Yeah.
So where I think the weapons are going to age really well is when they start showing up in our roulette's next expansion.
That's true.
When you're going to level your alts and you start seeing weapons again. I think that's a much longer form. It's a much longer life for those. They're a ton of fun. They're an absolute blast. So everybody should clear them at least once. They're a ton of fun. They don't help me get to my 5-10 faster. So I don't clear them weekly because I clear Eden and then I go to leveling because I'm leveling all my tanks right now.
Mm-hmm.
So Dark Knight's the last one. I'm up to 56, I think, as of this moment. Goal for this week is 60. And then my Paladin's at 74. And then I'll be done with tanks.
Mm-hmm.
So probably a couple weeks, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, your
really
progress is going on like extremely well, and so if Dark Knight's your lowest, yeah, you should start being able to wear all of a sudden your gear set's your gear set, and you just have to worry about the 4 different weapons, and that becomes a really nice treat. That just becomes something that is super convenient, barely an inconvenience.
Yeah, it's been nice to kind of level that. Starlight, did you do your Starlight Festival stuff?
Got my mount, and
the mount is incredible.
That mount is amazing. I love because I also have my Christmas bear, so now I got my snowman. I try to queue into PvP.
I like the snowman better than the bear.
I try to queue into PvP because I hear there's like a whole snowman kind of thing going on in PvP. That's what everybody's doing. But I like it's again 30-minute queues whenever because I'm just on when I play. Unfortunately, I'm in just such weird time slots that there really isn't much activity going on, and that's just like today on stream there was an audible like, oh gosh, I would love it if there was that thing, because that kind of content could help bridge the gaps. I think one of the things that we've seen this year alone, in terms of no matter how good the story was with 5.3 or 5.4, the fact that you've been going into Boja, I've gone in, and it's just like it's pretty dead. Like, and I've found
until people are done with Savage.
Yeah, until people, and that's where it's like, oh man, like there's. I'd like to see a little bit more activity in some of these in some of the content, but I think one of the things that really you can kind of see is that COVID did Square Enix no favors. COVID did game development no favors this year, and so it's like, oh man, well I guess you just kind of figure it out, or you just bounce between a couple of different games to kind of get that fix in and of itself. But I would say generally overall 5.4 it feels thin in its is the tree. It feels thin in the those are the people coming at me like it's not thin. There's 1,000 things to do. Is because also like 5.4.1 obviously wasn't this week. So that's probably going to be maybe next week. January. And then 5.4.5, which kind of completes off the content of the patch, is going to be sometime in January. So I think January is going to be a really excellent time.
I bet 5.4.1 is January 5th. I bet it's not next week.
You think I mean, it kind of makes sense
if it wasn't this week. If it wasn't this week, kick it past the holidays. Kick it another 2 weeks.
Yeah, because if
4 weeks,
I don't know if
5.4.1 is big gameplay wise. That's a long gap.
So I think essentially where the thing that's the most exciting though is that this is the first chapter of whatever this is going to be 6.0, right. And this leads us into January, and that leads us into February. And February is when we're going to finally get the bigger announcements. People have been asking me a lot on GP, like saying like, hey, is there an official PS5 edition? Because the PS5 is just backwards compatible.
They said they couldn't talk about it yet.
They couldn't talk about it yet. And maybe we'll get that information in February, because I think that's going to be radically amazing. Because when like the PS5 versus the PS4 Pro on SSD is faster, but not by much. But it's much faster than a base PS4. So if you did get a PS5 and you're coming from PS4, you're going to see like insane loading times. But that's not taking advantage of the core SDK of the PS5, and so I can't wait to see like a native version.
And with things like dungeons and Boja, it doesn't show off because you're not zoning in and out all the time.
Yeah.
So it's not like if you were like if fate grinding was the thing right now and you were jumping zone to zone to zone, like following a hunt train or something, that'd be very different.
I'm gonna say this, and this is something that the same thing kind of with Eureka, same thing with this, is that I wish that like the model for Boja with the fates, the skirmishes, and the critical engagements, I wish that existed out in the real world, and that becomes a challenge because like how do you get that many people doing it? And it's like I wish that there was just a zone they would pick each week and says each week this is the zone. It's all any zones available. So if it's an ARR zone, you just go into ARR, you run the fates and skirmishes, and it could pop a critical engagement. And I wish that system existed just as the core of the game. Because if it did, like that is something that's really fun. And I look at it, I go, it's so unfortunate right now that we've only got the one zone. We'll get a new zone. And we'll also get the Baldician Arsenal equivalent. Like that's like, oh, like it's unfortunate that got to like.
That's probably February.
Well, he was talking about it's a part of the 5.4, and they were hoping to have it in 5.4, but it got pushed out. So they didn't. They committed to 5.4X. So it could be 5.4.1, could be 5.4.5, could be 5.4.6.5. You know, it's like something in that regards. And so I think that's another.
Get our first 5.4.9.
That anything's
2 weeks
possible.
before 5.5.
We've gotten 0.8s before, so
Yeah.
that goes in before
Cool.
the expansion. Yeah.
Okay, so just moving my way down the list. Did the monk changes affect everything for you?
Yes. Oh yeah. Monk
I know
changes.
that's a constant thing people ask about as far as class changes. Monk is the big one in the room.
Monk made a lot of changes, and those changes I think made it way easier for me to play it on controller, but also just easier to understand because you have the positionals. I felt like Monk was like very busy, and I know for monks who were really good monks, and these changes, I would think this would be a boring change. I also heard from Chili, we talked to him, he says overall it seems like it even is a little bit of a nerf, so we might see more monk changes. But when playing it, not having to worry about grease lightning, the monk feels immediately fast. And I started stacking in skill speed Matera into the slots, and I've got it down to 1.85 right now. And I'm hearing, and that's only I only did my relic weapon with five of that. I just said blah. And I'm hearing that people have been able to get it to 1.7 for the global cooldown, and that is insane. Like that I want to actually do that and see what a 1.7 monk feels like. So that's where I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna do that as a fun. I think that might be a fun video or just a fun thing to kind of play around with it. But not having to worry about grease lighting, you're instantly fast. It doesn't like the problem with it was that it kind of was like it's a job that you build up. You're going and now you're going, and you kind of have that. Like you see that also with White Mage, although I think White Mage has a lot of tools ready to go. You got a lot of things you're doing as a White Mage, but as a monk, you got to build up for that. As a White Mage, you're just kind of doing your thing, and then eventually all of a sudden you're like, you got these extra heals, and now you're doing more things. So there's a build up, but it's kind of automatic, right? It's always happening. So I am generally positive with the changes. I've already even put out my monk controller guide. Like I did that pretty quickly with 5.4. I just went in, made a lot of different adjustments to how I was playing it before, and it's fun. Like it's much more fun. Does it beat Samurai and Dragoon for me? Not at all. Like, and I know monk mains out there like, oh, it's like it's just. It is better. It is much better than what it was for me. But I do feel for like monk mains that were out there like, man, like this is there's not so much I have to worry about now, and that was a part of the fun of the job. And the thing is that monk was, especially last expansion, it was just trash. Like for me, it was like I don't like this job. I don't want to play this job. I'm doing it for you guys because you guys want a controller guide, so I'm gonna suffer through it. This was not so much suffering through it because they made some good changes with Shadowbringers, but then going into 5.4, I was like, oh, this is actually something that, if somebody was like, hey, Brian, we want you to do something on Monk for us, I'd say, okay, as opposed to like before, be like, can I just come as a Samurai? Like, can I come as a Dragoon? Dragoon also, like, I think feels great. So very pleased with how Monk feels in this expansion, in this patch. I think 5.4 was an overall positive move for the class. Good job. Anyway.
Well, good. I think that's it. We have 5.4.1 probably coming in the next couple weeks. And then we have 5.4.5 coming sometime after that, before 5.5. And there will be the last of the Ishgardian restoration. Keep in mind, whoever wins this one, whatever crafter wins this one or gatherer, that's the monument that'll be on your server. And that could be different for every server in your data center. And then that'll wrap that up. I hope that ends with a form of player housing in a perfect dream, not setting my hopes there too hard. I would love for that to be the first instanced housing in the game if it were me, but probably not.
Probably not.
So from there, we go into 545, which is more Boja. So this will be the Baldesian Arsenal. So they said if you like everything we've done so far, which is insane, and you haven't seen anything yet. So we are going to get into what the real deal is. All of this dueling and giant fates and critical engagements. This is child's play. So from here, it should get really big, and that will take us into 5.5. Somewhere along that journey, we will have FanFest February. I think we're just getting to one. So instead of 3 parts,
they're calling it a series of special announcements because I think they're in some world they think that maybe they can put a FanFest together, but at some point I would say, unfortunately, maybe just table it. It's like bring together because like Final Fantasy XI Mobile apparently got canceled.
Yeah, they could have a Square Enix Fest.
Yeah, they could be like, hey, we're gonna talk about we got 16 coming.
Tomb Raider and 16.
Yeah,
and,
Outriders,
Avengers Apology Tour, and.
I've been playing Kate Bishop. She's pretty solid, but maybe we'll talk about that at another point because like Avengers needs a lot of work, and I'm wondering if they're gonna put that time in after $65 million down the drain. Like at some point, you're like, did we cut it off or?
No Man's Sky turned it around, so like you don't have to give up hope on it.
Why is it always? It seems like we're just in this pattern of everything having to get turned around. Cyberpunk, like even though it sold 13 million units. Right now, currently, even after
but that
refunds,
number can go down just as fast as it can go up right now.
Yeah. But even they're saying who knows if it's legit. But even after refunds, etc., it's like a lot of people that
it was profitable as a pre-order.
It paid for itself. That Cyberpunk did more for Stadia than any other game has this last year. Like more like Stadia had a promo going and they had to stop it because all of a sudden they had this wave of people over into Cyberpunk, and it was like, well, and everybody's like, oh wow, it actually works. It's like it has been. We just need 14 on Stadia. That'd be really great. All right, guys, on the first, Yoshi P will have a letter, so we'll be sure to give you guys updated on that. I always look forward to his New Year's letters, but let us know what you think about the patch. No spoiler talk as best you can in the comments, and we'll be coming back to talk story with you guys here either tomorrow or the next day. We'll figure out what works for our schedules. Hopefully you guys are excited and
hang out and stream.
Yeah.
We're streaming so much.
Yeah, check it out. Yeah, we're live.
Probably so much. Now. We're live like all the time now. We're live like 8.5 hours a day this week.
Crazy.
Every day.
That's why he's making so much progress. Anyway, guys, we love you for Work to Game. My name's Brian.
My name's Chris.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you soon.